Hey, what's up guys? I am Nitij and in this video, I will talk about the code execution context within the classes in JavaScript. I have already created a video on function context and the video URL is there in the description if you are interested to know about it. Some of you must be thinking that classes in JavaScript are also functions internally. Then why should there be a difference in the scope or execution context of functions within the classes? Well, there are indeed some differences and that is what this video is about. So first of all, within a class, only the non-static functions are accessible using the this keyword. Let's just first create a new class and I'm just going to call this class as my class. Inside this class, first let's add a constructor with a bunch of properties, item1 and item2. Now let's add two functions to it. One of them is a static function and another one is a non-static function. Both of them are doing the same thing. The static one is returning the sum of two numbers which are provided as arguments. The second one, which is non-static, is returning the sum of these two properties which are a part of this class's initialized object. Now let's create another function and let's just call it as myfunc. So inside this function, first let's call the non-static function, and for that I'm just going to log to the console the result. So console.log and then this dot get sum. And now let's initialize a new object using this myClass class, and to do that I'm going to create a new variable. Let's just call it as obj1 equals to new my class, and now let's invoke the myfunc function. So obj1.myfunc, and now to run this page in the browser I'm going to use the live server extension. Right click inside the Visual Studio Code window and then select this option, open with live server. Now the page has been opened and now check the console. You can see that the value which is being printed is 25. This is because the getSum is just adding the value of these two properties. Now let's see what will happen if we will try to log to the console the value which is printed when we will call the static getSum static function. But what will happen when we will try to access it using the this keyword? And we will also have to provide the value for the two arguments. So let's just do that too. And I'm going to comment out this first line. Now when I have saved the code, then the live reload extension has refreshed the page. You can see there is an error which says this.getSumStatic is not a function. This is simply because the code is unable to find this function, because getSumStatic is not a function which is part of the context of this class myClass. Secondly, for child classes you must first call super within the constructor, or else this keyword for the child class will not be initialized. So to test it, I'm just going to create a new class which is extending from the original myClass. The name of the class is another class. Let's just comment out this function invocation. We will have to initialize a new object out of this another class. So to do that, I'm just going to name the object as obj2 and new another class. Save the code. Now you can see the code execution has stopped where the debugger is placed over here after super has been called within the constructor of this derived another class. Now you can see when super has been called, then this is initialized. This is evident when we will add this keyword to the watch. Now this is another class right now, the object which is created out of this class. But what will happen if I will comment out the super statement, save the code. Now let's refresh the page again. This time you can see that this is undefined because super is not being called from the constructor. Also, a child constructor cannot be empty if super is not called. It should either return something or should not be added at all. For example, if I will create another class which is extending my class, let's just call it another class 1. Now within the constructor, if I have indeed added a constructor, then the constructor must return something if it is not calling super. So let's say you will think that, oh, I don't need this keyword within the constructor, or I don't really need to initialize it because I'm not going to use the this keyword in any of the member functions of this derived another class 1. But still, if you're using a constructor, then you will have to return something, otherwise there will be an error. So let's comment out this piece of code and let's create another object out of this another class 1 derived class. Let's save the code. You can see that nothing is happening right now, there is no error. But if I will comment out this statement which is returning an empty object, then let's see what will happen. You can see there is an error in the console. Must call super constructor in derived class before accessing this, or returning from derived constructor. So this second one is applicable for our situation. We are not accessing this keyword, but we are also not returning anything. Finally, the execution context within a class is always in a strict mode. So if a function is assigned to a variable and then called or invoked, then this keyword within the function will be undefined. To test this one, let's just create a new function and let's just call it as testfunc, and I'm just going to assign the value of getSome function to this new testfunc function. And now let's just call it directly. Now I'm going to save the code and let's check out the console. You can see in the console that there is an error which says cannot read properties of undefined. This is because this keyword is not set when we are invoking this testfunc function directly, which is actually this getSome function. And this is happening because the function within any class will always be invoked in strict mode. So even if I will add these two properties which this getSome function is trying to access, item1 and item2, even if I will add them to the global scope, that also is not going to make a difference because this keyword is still going to be undefined because the function is running in the strict mode. So let's save the code. The error is still there. These were some of the points which are different in classes from functions when we are talking about their execution contexts. It is better to know about them than keep getting confused as to why things are running in a certain way. And that is everything this video has to offer. Please like the video and subscribe to this channel to stay updated with more such videos. I am Nitij and I will see you next time. Till then, stay safe and have fun.